Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Tyler Perrin will not be with us this evening. He did send me an email, so he will be absent. Our alternates are Kate and Tony. Did either one of you want to vote in Tyler's place if we have to have a vote this evening?
What's that?
I'd say let Kate do it.
All right.
Let Kate do it? Okay. Would you mind? Okay, very good. So Kate will be our voting member this evening for alternate. I just lost my screen. Roll call of members. Michael Croto, Chair.
Stephen Weber, Selectman's Rep.
Dennis Page, member.
Kate Stevens, alternate.
Kimberly Queen and Vice Chair.
Joe Blanchett, clerk.
Tony Turkey, alternate.
Okay, great. Public input on non-agenda items. Are there any members of the public this evening who wish to talk about non-agenda items, not pertinent to the agenda, but to other things related? Excuse me, my computer is going crazy here. All right. Yeah, is there anybody in the public who wishes to speak? Okay. Hearing none, I will close public input, and we will go on to the business at hand this evening, which is number one, accept an application from Richard Jefferson, trustee at 281 Charles Bancroft Highway, tax map 12, lot 27, for a subdivision of one lot into 3 residential lots. If this application is accepted this evening, notice is hereby extended to application approval, consideration, and or continuation to a date certain as required. Is the applicant present? Would you come forward, sir? You can come to sit at the front of the table, have a seat, and announce your name and address.
My name is Richard Jefferson. I live at 6 Nessington Drive, Litchfield.
Okay. And are you the applicant's representative?
Yes, I'm the surveyor for the project.
Okay, can you state your name for the record,
My name is
please?
Greg Jeffrey.
Okay.
From Jeffrey Land Survey,
Okay,
Burgess Drive, Litchfield, New Hampshire.
good evening. Welcome, gentlemen. This is a subdivision, as I understand it, for two parcels? Is that the
It's
or one
parcel.
acre parcel? Okay. So I think what we will do first this evening, what we normally do in the procedurally is we determine whether there is enough information to accept the application. If the application is completed and there is acceptance, then what we will do, we will move on to have you folks give us a little bit of background information on the project, and then we'll go forward from there. So in order to determine completeness, I guess I would turn to our planner and Joan. Do we have everything we need for this application? Do we have notices to all the butters? Do we have all required paperwork, escrows paid, fees paid, anything of that nature?
We have notice to butters, and we have an escrow account for the fees to be paid.
Okay.
I never got a lot.
Are you the owner of the parcel?
I'm a partial owner. I mean, my house is on the property.
Eunice and Edward Dalton got up for map 12, lot 30.
Did Edward Dalton get one?
The owner of the property gets the notice.
He's one, too.
He's the owner of the property also?
3 of us.
And so your name for the record?
Edward Dalton Jr.
Okay.
I live at 287 Charles Bancroft Highway.
No, I just have map 12, lot 30, Eunice and Edward Dalton.
Okay.
I don't know if I can get onto the tax rolls here.
Do you know if you're listed on the tax rolls on the assistant records?
I pay taxes. I don't know if I'm on it, but I know I pay them.
Right.
And I'm waiting for the check. Sign.
I forget to go into my computer to see who's on the tax rolls. You want to speak with Jay so I can go check the tax rolls?
Sure.
Is
Jay,
there anything
you want to give a little input?
Yes, I would note, overall, yes, we do have sufficient information. I would note that there are 3 waiver requests
Yes.
that the board would have to consider.
Okay. I don't know. I've never had encountered this situation before. And the fact that if he didn't get notice, does that in any way affect how we proceed here? Or does he need to have something, or he being here this evening, unless.
Clearly, there was actual notice, but we should check to see whether or not
Okay.
it was
So I
noticed
think
correctly.
in order to, be on the same page and make sure that we have everything we need, I'm going to have Joan take care of that piece and have her check to make sure that, we have what we need. I don't want to go forward, just prematurely, just because it's a procedure we have to follow. So I want to make sure that everyone's noticed and everyone has an opportunity to be heard. So I think in all fairness to the applicants and to the abutters here.
While we're waiting, do we want to go over what these
Get the deed.
waivers are? Just list them off.
Yeah, normally,
Or do you want to wait?
I would
can
rather wait only because if they're going to have an opportunity to speak, if we go forward, then that they can give us that information at that time. I think that's probably the better way to proceed.
Sure thing.
See, I have one of my with the deed for the house. Three left.
Emergency, yes, but
Oh, wait, do you want to?
I didn't know if you folks have like any paperwork or anything that you wanted to pass out. You know, you're welcome to do that while we wait.
Does anyone need a hard copy of the plan? I know I'm giving my age away by saying that, but is that
It's at 6:74.
It just basically says 30 days before. It's
Okay, so it has, Edward, it just has Edward at the top, and then it has Edward and Dennis, and then it has Dalton Jr. on this side,
Mm-hmm.
but it's all going to 6 Charles Bancroft, where this one went.
Okay. Ed, you live at 6 Charles
No, I live at 287.
287.
But it's all going on the taxes to 6 Charles Bancroft. Right.
Oh, okay.
That's where they get the, obviously.
Okay. All right. So if we have all the paperwork that's needed for completion, we have notice to abutters. I would entertain a motion, well, I would ask the board to entertain a motion or, to accept the application for completeness at this time.
I'll make a motion to accept the application for completeness.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do I have any discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 2, 3, 4, 5, 600. I'm sorry, 700. Right? No, I'm sorry. He's an alternate. Okay, sorry. 600. I was right. I should have stuck with my instinct.
Just one of those days, I'm telling you.
Okay. All right. So that essentially the application has been accepted for completeness. And that is really a paper exercise for us to make sure that we have all the paperwork, that all notice has been given. That's really what acceptance is. It's not an approval of the application. It's only an acceptance of the application as it pertains to documentation and so forth. Okay. So with that said, I will ask either the applicant or the applicant's representative if you would like to present to us at this time what you're doing and what's going on here. So,
okay? Should I approach the
if you'd want
the jumbotron? For our discussion tonight, we have a single parcel of land, and it's quite sizable parcel of land. It's actually 38 acres, and it fronts on Charles Bancroft Highway, and it actually fronts on Albuquerque. Historically, it actually went further, a little bit further, but right now it fronts here and here. It's approaching a mile in length, the parcel. The part of the 38 acres that we are interested in right now is, you can see in this box right here. The intention, all right, can I do that?
No, not that fancy.
Work on that, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so the intention now is to subdivide this major parcel right here into 2 lots, and then that main portion, I believe it was 28 acres. I think it says it on it. It's clear on my. Yeah, I'm sorry, 29 acres. The remaining 29 acres is to front Albuquerque. And so I don't know if you can make it out too well, but the line, so there's a parallel, what in surveyor terms, we call this a range line. So these historic range lines here, it goes to the midpoint of this line here. This is town land right here. This is town land right here. There's an existing stone monument here, so that's why that line is drawn there. There's a steep slope. There's wetlands right here. And the proposed location, or what we would call the building envelope, is in this area here. Now, I'm not sure, what the orientation, location, or rotation of the proposed would be, but I just drew these boxes in to show that there's sufficient room. Because this lot right here is approaching 3.8 acres right here, and this proposed lot right here is 4.7. There's an existing lot right here, existing dwelling, existing garage. There is right here. There is an existing house on the other side. So the proposed driveway, the curb cut, would go down this path and up to the building envelope that's right here. So this is.
The board, I'm sorry, unless the board has any questions so far.
How many structures are going in the new envelope?
Single family dwelling.
Just one, or just two, or one?
One.
Okay.
Yeah, one dwelling. Yeah.
Okay.
It's proposed single family dwelling, but again, if a person has a detached garage and things like that, that's, that would be up to the person that purchased the property.
Is that town water there, or is that?
No, it would be well. So I show, I don't know if you can see it, but I show a proposed well here, away from the septic system. But again, the configuration would be based upon the wishes of the buyer. They may want their house oriented a certain way.
Sure.
And the septic house and well location are all based on that.
Okay.
So, but I just put these in here just to show the relative sizes.
And this is out of the envelope of the issues they're having with the wells in the northern part of the.
That I can't, I'm not entirely sure about that. What is it? PFOAs. I'm not too sure.
Do you know if you definitely even can put a well in?
Well, I mean, there's more than enough room, and there's more than enough distance. And the water table, anecdotally, the water table would be in the 15 to 20 foot range.
I mean, are they allowing people to build new wells? I mean, I don't live in that area, so I'm not really sure about how that.
I don't know what would.
Because they're putting city water in.
But I mean, until then,
but
until then, I don't think you can deny a person water.
okay, so because they're not forcing people to hook that up.
Well,
I
I
didn't
mean,
know
it'd
if
be
there was
wise
any
to.
right there.
It'd certainly be wise.
I just didn't know.
Yeah.
Do you know if the new owner wanted city water instead of a well? Is there access
Right.
to that?
The new owner hasn't been decided because
Sure.
this is the first night of discussion.
Yep.
But generally, the way that we would do this in an area that doesn't have water
Mhm.
is you would drill a well. If they decided at a future date to hook up to municipal water, they can, certainly use the well for another purpose.
Okay. I'm just wondering what, like, kind of hardships they'd have if they needed the municipal water.
Do we know if it's been tested? That area has been tested at all?
I have 2 wells there now, and they're both fine.
And they both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the line Penachuk put in, I don't think goes that far south
Okay.
because it's outside the affected area, the radius. 'Cause
Yeah,
they had
that's
one
what
radius,
exactly.
then they
I didn't-
expanded the
I didn't know
radius.
how
And I don't think the
far it
Penachuk
went
was that far. Now they're doing another tie-in line.
Okay.
Right. The just as a frame of reference, the library would be
Yeah.
right about here.
Okay.
Which is there's a hydrant right at stage crossing in the library.
Okay.
Are you removing that existing driveway to get more frontage for the other parcel?
What do you mean, this?
Down below, you said that's going to be
Oh.
removed.
Oh, for a curb cut, because it's a state highway?
Yep,
you go
so you have
for
to
a
go
curb
DOT.
cut.
Yeah.
Right, so I went in and I talked to the guy at NHDOT, and he said, that's great, but what he wanted is a discontinuance of this access right here. He said, yeah, you can put your trailer or your mobile home or whatever it is, but it just has to be discontinued between, you just can't connect.
Yeah.
But the state highway permit has been, the curb cut permit is in this area right here. Adjacent from the telephone pole. I think you can see it on the plan.
Why did he want that removed?
So you have one lot, and then there's already what they would call 2 curb cuts.
Yep.
One here, because this is sort of like a horseshoe.
Mhm.
And so now you're in one lot, you're asking for another curb cut.
Just
But
too
then
many.
you
in
already
one area.
have 2. So he said, well, allow the curb cut, but it just has to be discontinued. One of those. So the logical choice would be this one right here.
I notice there's a lot of wetlands on the property.
Sure.
My understanding is that you may need a special exception from the zoning board for approval in order to build. Is that my understanding, or?
To build.
Well, because you're impacting a wetland. Normally, what if there's an impact of some kind? Is there? Well, maybe I should ask you first. I mean, do you see any impact to the wetland, or is there any impacts to the wetland that
Right.
would affect this process?
So here's the border of vegetated wetlands right here,
Mhm.
and also here. So what I've done is I put the 50, 75, and 100. So it's a significant distance away from the wetlands.
Mhm.
The 100, of course, is for the 4K area. The 50 is for building. So we're a significant area away. Just keep in mind that the closest line right here, that's for the septic alone. That's not for the building or the cutting.
But the driveway is going to hit over here.
The driveway right here,
Yeah, it's going to have to.
it's gonna
Hit.
have to squeak right by that 15-foot right there. There's an existing path right there. Yeah. Is that what I said? Okay.
Is that enough space? I feel like you'd still need some kind of waiver for that corner wetlands there.
Well, we're not sure about the width of the final driveway. The 12-foot driveway would be normal, but whether, in construction that it comes across. But in that area, I think there would be minimal impact, surely enough to, if it were to go to a waiver, I think there would be more than enough room to mitigate the minimal impact to the wetlands that are remaining in the back.
Jay, I know you made in your staff report a comment about that. I don't know. Will they be required to go to the zoning board? If
Yes.
Okay.
Constructing a driveway through there would be in the 50-foot buffer, and that does require a special exception from zoning.
Okay.
it's also obviously a very, very narrow area.
Yeah.
So I don't know that you could preclude that there could be actual, impacts to the wetland proper in the course of construction.
Okay. So, I mean, you may have to go before the zoning board. I don't know, I mean, it may be, it may not be something that difficult for them to approve or not, I don't know. But it's up to them, and so I'm just letting you know that. So we have no control over that, so it's not within our regulations, but it's the zoning board's regulations.
You have a comment, Jay, about Conservation Commission review is also needed?
Yes, as a part of the process of
Zoning,
applying
yeah.
to the zoning board, you have also have to go to Conservation Commission.
I think usually if there is a zoning decision, the zoning decision usually looks to the Conservation Commission recommendations most of the time. Standard. Do you want to talk about the waivers request that you are seeking?
Yes. When waivers were similar, and I think Jonah and I briefly went over this, I put, like, for instance, there are two different regulations as far as the topography is concerned. I put them on one sheet. Is that sort of idea okay with everyone? You know what I mean?
Okay, with the board.
Okay. For discussion, because they're close enough
Sure.
in intent that I thought that the discussion would, be for the two of them. In order that I have them, checklist item 150.7F and 530.00E, the topography of the entire lot. Can we go back to
The first one?
Yeah, the first sheet. So the entire lot is, so it's roughly 350 feet, almost by a mile. And the majority of this lot is going to be what we call land remaining. So to do a topo survey of the entire lot would just be egregiously expensive for the client to do, just for the to satisfy the regulations. So what I wrote is that the entire parcel is 38 acres and only 3.8 acres are to be developed. The 3.8 acre parcel, as well as the parcel with the existing dwelling unit, has been topographically surveyed to a 2-foot interval as opposed to a 5-foot for the whole mile-long lot. The remaining land is to remain as is. Therefore, granting of the waiver is to be keeping in the spirit and intent of the ordinance. So can we go back to the
I can
you,
blow out, yeah.
Boy, we really need to get one of those. You know, in football when they do that. Okay, you can see the topo lines. I'm not sure if they show up well on yours. Because I subdued them a little bit because there's a lot of lines going around.
So you can see them fine.
Okay, so I subdued the topo lines, so you can really see the topo lines here because there's a I don't know what you call it, a mesa. It's just a high cliff. What do you call it, Richard? Cliff? But it goes up pretty high right here. But that's actually on the top when it flattens out. That's just beyond. That's on the land remaining. So, but you can see and then they have the annotation right here. So these have been topoed on the ground, 2-foot intervals, the USGS standards.
Anyone have any questions?
No. What about the other waivers and stuff?
Jay, do you have anything to add in terms of the waiver?
On this specific request, no, I mean, I think given the size of the parcel, it does seem reasonable.
Okay. Do you want to move on to the next one, or?
I'm not sure about procedurally. Do you have to vote for the acceptance of the-
Well, normally what we do is we will vote at the end. At some point, we will vote on the waivers as requested. So,
Okay.
so you can go through them. That's fine, and we'll.
The next one, if, no, we can stay with this one. This checklist item 530.00G and 150.7. It's the location of soil type and soil boundaries. This ordinance is in place to monitor the soil boundaries for larger projects with significant development and impact on soil placement. The effects of the addition of one single-family dwelling unit is negligible on the area. Also, the immediate area of the proposed septic system will be addressed in the process of the septic design approval. Again, we don't know, the location and orientation of the house drives the location of the septic system and the well. So the specific areas of the soil boundaries, those will be addressed during that period when we know specifically, when we do test bits about what type of soil it is, more specifically. Therefore, granting of the waiver is in keeping with the spirit and intent of the ordinance.
Does anybody have any questions? Jay, we good on this one too?
Yes.
Okay.
Similar reasons, the size, overall size.
Okay.
Minimal impact.
And there's one more.
Okay. One was the production of a drainage study and a stormwater drainage plan. That's 530.00K, M, and 150.00Q, the drainage and erosion plan. And again, this is very similar. The ordinance of the plan is to mitigate the adverse downstream effects for larger projects with significant increase to impervious coverage. The subject project simply proposes to subdivide one lot into these two lots. Well, actually three. I wrote two, but it's actually three. In addition, the impervious area is negligible. It will not contribute to downstream flooding. Therefore, granting of the waiver is in keeping with the spirit and intent of the ordinance.
Board have any questions? Jay, are we good on this one?
Yes, similar reasons.
All right. Let's see here. I guess my question is in the stormwater. Is there so you're not seeking? There's no need for a management plan. Is that what you're saying? Is that it's
Right,
not?
just because we're dealing with one house, and those are also addressed in the best construction management policy and the driveway construction policy of the town.
And there's going to be a septic on the property at some point, and you're going to have a design for that. Is that?
Yeah. Again, that's in a sense left up to the person
Right.
that buys the lot, because it's a beautiful area. But just as a note, I did a 30 by 60 box, and then this is 80 by 50. Yeah, I think that's what it was. Just to show that that's probably as big a house as you would ever find, in that area.
So you're going to need approval from is it DOT for curb cuts? Is that?
Already have that.
You already have that. So you have those permits.
Yes.
Any other permits you have or don't have?
Well, it would be the septic design plan.
Just the septic design plan is what you're seeking. And is that through DES? You have to get that? Or?
Yes, subsurface, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Does the board have any further questions for the applicant before I open it to public comment? Okay. At this time, I'm going to open this up to public comment, public input. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak, come forward? I would ask that you come forward to the table, state your name, address for the record, and
they know me.
Hi, my name is Eddie Dalton. I live at 287 Charles Bancroft Highway, and I've lived there for
Many years.
A few years. Where they want to go through the wetlands, and they want to fill that wetlands. In the springtime, we have significant runoff, and when that wetlands freezes, the water backs up on us, comes onto our land, and floods out Terry Jefferson's house. So she says goes into her cellar. I mean, I just can't see that where they fill that wetlands in, where they're going through the wetlands. If they block that up, we're going to have more problems with water coming onto me and making my land unusable. That's my concern. I mean, if the house lots there, that's, I mean, I have no problem with them building a house, but if the water is coming my way, and if they pave it, the water's not going to sink in. It's wetlands for a reason. It's because the water runs there. The water runs the easiest way there is, and it's wetlands because the water runs there. In the springtime when the ground is frozen, it runs onto us. I talked to Mike, Terry's boyfriend, and he says he pumps for 7 days when the water's there out of his cellar. I mean, if you're going to add more water, filling the wetlands, we're going to receive more water. That's my concern. And I mean, it doesn't affect my house because I'm higher, but I mean, I think Terry's going to sue me because the water's running in her cellar and she's saying it's my water. I mean, you can't block that water up. The water needs to run. If you're going to fill the wetlands, it's wetlands for a reason, and that's why the water's there, because that's the easiest way for the water to run. And if you pave it, put a driveway, pave it, or whatever, build it up, I just don't want you building your land up, or you're making our land not usable. That's my theory.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else?
I'm senior.
Okay.
Edward Dalton Senior.
Can you state your name for the record?
Yep. Edward Dalton Senior.
Okay.
And I live at 4 Charles Bancroft. And I just want to remind you people in the town, we went through the water up back, and you can check the records. Town didn't do too good. If we have water, we'll be seeing you in court. Not that I'm worried, but you ought to look into it.
All right.
I guess my question is, do you want to respond?
But I guess I'm sort of at a loss. I just want to know the wetlands that we're blocking or crossing.
Where you going?
Well,
it's all wet. I mean,
I know.
I've lived here forever.
No, but you mentioned filling.
What's this?
Right.
What's this?
There's going to be a minimal, if anything, there's going to be a minimal impact.
There's a path right through the back here where it runs, and it runs over towards the library.
Right.
There's a path where the water runs. It comes through here. The water runs and it goes right through that library. It goes right behind this house.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe you haven't been there, but I've been there. The water goes.
Let me tell you this. When we had trouble,
it's
went to court with Mr. Jefferson on the septic system. When he put the new septic system in, he filled that in. He got water in his cellar now. We have more water. Everybody has water.
I mean, if you plug this up, water's going to come my way.
Right, usually in a case like this, if you're mitigating this area, you're gonna put a culvert in there. Plus the water runs perpendicular to the contours. You can see it comes downhill here into the
It
wetlands.
runs right down into my land right here.
Like now it does.
Well,
So-
it's going to, when the ground's frozen, that's the way it runs. When the ground is frozen, it's
Right.
not running into the wetlands, it's running my way. So if they
Just
pave
like-
that,
Like
the
go up.
water's coming my way.
Like pull this down.
If they put a driveway in there and it's pavement,
Right,
it's
there's,
not gonna run into the
Okay.
ground anymore.
Why don't you,
Right.
why don't you let him finish, okay? I understand.
okay. But there's pre-existing, water runs perpendicular to these contour lines. That's just the nature of water. So there's pre-existing water. I don't doubt that there's water on your land.
No, I mean, it comes in the spring when the ground's
Right.
frozen. Anybody that's been down 3A seen it.
Right. So in this area, it goes into this wetland, and this drains out here. And then in this area, it comes down here and goes into this area. You know, when you're talking about this, if you mitigate this and then you put a culvert over here, I mean, I don't think that's aggravating, any pre-existing conditions. Because this water here is draining this way.
If the water table in that, if the water table in that area is high, it comes our way. If the water table in that area where it's wetland is high, because it can't run anywhere, it comes our way. It goes the easiest way. I don't
Right,
know.
water,
It goes the
does
easiest
that.
way. It comes our way. And if you look at my land, it goes out that way because the water table is that high. And if you look at my land, you can come look at my land.
No,
and you
I've
can
been
see
there.
where the lawn don't grow, where the water's coming my way.
Right.
And if they fill that in, the water's gonna come my way more, and you're making my land unaccessible. Because you're bringing your land up. And you're paving it, and it is what it is.
I guess, I guess apart from, you have that pre-existing water right there, I'm sure. But then from
When the ground
about,
is frozen, yes, we have that.
from
we
about
have
this
water there.
point, if you check the contours, they come around, and from this point, they drain into this wetland, and that encompasses the area of the proposed mitigation.
Come over my house.
I've been there.
I know. I wanted to throw you out. But right here, you can see where the water leaks out of that ground, right here. When the water table's high here, it comes out right here. And don't tell me it don't, because I'm not
saying it
It
doesn't.
does. It comes out right here. And if you start filling this in, the water's gonna come my way. You can look at your map, but you come right here, right along the side of that house. The water's coming out underground, right under that house.
They built that house
And
right
if
all around
you build this up, it's gonna come more my way. No.
No, did you hear, you know what a culvert is?
Yeah.
All right, so
Culvert,
what we're
that's what
talking
many of them
about
is.
is, what we're talking, right, and there's actually
But-
one up by the path over here.
You can't build that up. You can't go through the wetlands.
See, I guess I'm at a loss because this, from here to here, and then from here, it drains down. And I
So
guess,
how am I getting water seeping out of the ground from
well,
him?
it's seeping out of the ground and there's not a driveway there.
It's coming right down across.
So if he builds a driveway through, if there's a driveway through there, where's the water gonna go? That's why it's wetlands, so the water seeps into the ground. The water stays in the
So-
wetlands.
This goes to this, then a culvert into that, and that goes down into the naturally occurring drainage. I guess we'll butt heads on that till the cows come home. But
if you build that up,
There's actually a
we're gonna have
possibility that
Shirley
a
Way.
culvert could actually help water shed away from your land even better too. You never know; it could actually work in the opposite direction.
like
Once you get an
from
engineering report
here
of
down,
some sort to find
like,
out what's
Yeah,
going on.
this is
That land there is higher than us.
Here down, right? From here down, it goes downhill.
Let's go look at the
It
contour.
goes down 2 feet, 4 feet, 6 feet. It's heading
How
that
low
way.
is our land right there?
Yes, Jay.
So how far is the water downstream? Where does it run?
Where does this water run? Behind the
Is it a clean path? I mean, or does it just build up?
I didn't survey the path.
I mean, if the water's 5 feet deep there, where's the water go?
All right, I have our planner would like to speak.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yes.
may, I think this is really precisely the reason why the special exception process exists, is it provides the opportunity for exactly these types of impacts and issues to be looked at closely with input from the Conservation Commission, who can really focus in on exactly what the nature of the wetlands are, what the seasonalities are. And, I think that's kind of where I think this issue could be most adequately addressed,
Right.
Ideally prior to final approval.
I would agree.
Well, that's what I said. Just have somebody look at it so we're not getting the water.
Well, as Jay said, and as I mentioned, the zoning board has the authority to grant what's called a special exception because there is a wetland impact. So it's got to go before the zoning board, and the zoning board has to make a decision. Okay. We have no authority over that. That's not our purview. But they have to make a decision, and that's really what the zoning board is there for. So I think really your issue is with those folks. And, I don't know if you've hadn't done any independent studies on your property in terms of the flow of water or drainage or anything, but I don't know, maybe that's something to look into. I don't know. But just, I'm just be aware that it is something that the zoning board has to decide. So,
Look, every spring you can see where it is.
again, it's something that is going to have to be taken up by another board. Okay.
Remember Shirley Wayne. Look it up.
Okay. Is anybody else from the members of the public who wish to speak this evening? Okay. Hearing none, I am going to close public input. There will be no further public input at this time. I'm going to direct this back to the board. And does the board have any further questions or concerns for the applicant this evening? And if not, what would be the board's wishes now in terms of
Waivers.
right? Well, we'll be doing that next. We do have some waivers on the table this evening. We can get to those. I would recommend, if you're going to approve it, that it be a conditional approval for this project based on the condition that they meet the requirements for special exception to the zoning board, because obviously they have to go before them. And also that that they meet the requirements for the septic, state permit, and so forth once they get that. But it's up to the board. Do you guys, what do you think? And what's your take on this one? Or what I can do is we can continue this hearing to a date and time certain, which means that the applicant would have to come back. Once we get it, once we know the information from the zoning decision, then we could proceed from there. It's up to you guys.
When will there be a potential zoning decision?
I don't know. Do you have? Well, obviously, you would have to go set up an appointment or meet with the zoning board. And I don't know if you have. This is their application process. I'm not sure how that works.
Okay.
I don't know when they meet.
Concerning
I think it's a Wednesday.
the potential impact on the wetlands.
Yeah, I mean,
August. Yeah.
we can continue it to a date and time certain. See what the zoning board has to say in terms of the wetland. If the abutters who are here this evening wish to go to that meeting or attend it, they are welcome to. And if they want to, present their testimony before that board, they're welcome to, and see what they say. And then you could come back once we get a note, once we know what the decision is, and then you come back. And then what we would do is we would do a conditional approval. We could do that, with waivers and, if that's, but that's up to I'm not the board. This is the board.
Mm-hmm.
So, you guys, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. That's just that's an option. I'm not saying we have to do that. So.
Would you guys be willing to go to the zoning board if we continued it?
Well, they would be the final arbiter in this. So
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it'd
That
be.
would make it a lot easier.
Why don't we just do a conditional?
Conditional on
approval?
that because
We can-
there's nothing else they really have to show us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Make
I think it's
conditional on
easier
the.
to.
Make it conditional based on the zoning board decision?
Right.
All
They
right,
would
that
have
makes
to,
sense.
right. It would be conditioned on basically what the zoning.
So we vote for waivers tonight also.
Yep. That way we can get everything done now.
You
and
have
not
that as
wait.
well. You have that option.
So I just want to be clear on the zoning board. It's about the wetlands themselves, Conservation Commission, plus any not existing water problem, but anything that could be introduced by that driveway.
They have to get a special exception because they're in the buffer of the wetland, that where the driveway would go.
And they're going to do all of that
Absolutely.
water testing to make sure the runoff is not going to be a worse problem than today, or are they just looking at the ducks and the worms? Yeah, I want to make sure that's there's two different things, Conservation Committee, right? One is the impact of the land, and then the second is the water problem. Not the existing one, but maybe making it worse. That's, I just want to make sure they address both of those concerns are
Well, it
addressed.
looks like that's what this waiver is for. So they don't have to
waiver?
do the drainage study.
Well, I think a drainage study is different, right?
Is it?
Well, that would be the impact as a whole on the quality of water of the wetlands.
That would be within the scope of what they would look at.
Yeah, but that doesn't, but again,
So they would be looking at that for their stuff, for the zoning board. That's what I'm getting, yeah.
Well, the zoning board is also a public hearing, so there would be
Right.
the opportunity to have,
bring that
for the
up.
public to have
Right, the
input.
public
So I'm
testimony.
sure that those concerns would be a part of the
if they
decision.
can go, I just want to make sure
Of
they
course,
address it.
that's right.
That's the main thing. Because if they say it doesn't impact the ducks and all that, and then it goes, and, I just want to make sure that driveway is addressed.
Planning board input is a part of the process also, so the planning board could certainly make note of the issues that were raised at this hearing, so that that information would be provided to the zoning board as well, as part of the input.
Because sometimes when we get something in front of us, if we see other boards have already approved 2/3 of it, kind of, I'm not saying it makes it say, oh, it's easier for us to go through it versus we didn't even, do partial acceptance. So we have to weigh how that affects zoning, maybe yes or no. That's a discussion. Like if we approve it and say it's just the driveway is the holdup, that's different than saying, it's
Well-
almost giving it a green light to the zoning board to maybe
No,
Look at
not
that.
necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Okay, I just want to make sure of that.
Not necessarily. The zoning board has to go by their rules, and they are their own set of laws. So, that's what we're bound by and what they're bound by are two different
Would they look at
things.
it differently
They look at it
knowing
very
that we've already
differently
approved
than
it?
we do. Yeah.
You don't think that would impact the way they think of what we approved all of these other
I can't read their minds.
Well, the drainage one
But,
scares me because that could
We
go either
can
way.
put in our concerns. Yeah. Our,
Yeah.
our concerns are the wetlands and the drainage.
Yeah.
So we can conditionally approve it with that as long as they're also agreeing on that those are not problems. Right. Basically, if they decide that those are not problems, since we're not the ones that determine that.
I guess we have two options: approve it conditionally, and then let it fall on the zoning to say whether they believe it's okay or not, right? Or let them go to zoning and then come back and wait for their decision.
I'd rather make it so we don't have to come back if
Yeah, because we've
we do that.
got a lot of other business to take care of too.
Yeah.
We keep
Push off
pushing-
everything else.
We keep
So we
pushing on those other
can't
meetings.
push everybody off. Drag this out.
As long as a green light from us, I just want to make sure it doesn't
Yeah, we can.
persuade them.
talk with
Let's
them.
be strong on our statements of the big concerns that we had.
All right.
For protect, and your house and your neighbor over there.
So is it the will of the board to to look at the waivers at this time and to vote on those first, and then proceed with conditional approval? Is that what you want to do?
Sure.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to need someone to entertain a motion for waivers, sections 530.00G and 150.7, location of soil types and soil boundaries. Section 30.00K, M, and 150.00Q, drainage plan, erosion control plan, stormwater drainage plan, and section 150.7F and 530.00E, topography of entire lot, that those waivers be allowed or approved for this project.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Wait, are we saying we are approving those?
Yes.
Yes.
Those are waivers. We
All
have to
three
approve the
at
waivers
once?
first.
I guess it'd be during discussion that we go over it.
Well, yeah, there's a motion on the table. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have discussion?
I'm just not sure about the drainage study waiver.
The drainage
The
study. waiver?
stormwater drainage, if
stormwater
there's a big
yeah.
storm, does that add more water? Like yesterday's storm.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of
Jeez.
land.
It's just a lot caved down, yeah.
And it's erosion and sediment control. So with all this drainage problem, there's got to be erosion problems.
Was that a reason, was because of the cost on that? Or was that because of the size of the lot on the, let me just think of the drainage again.
I wouldn't say it's needed across the whole lot, but at least
Yeah,
that new.
would it cut down the
Right.
cost if they could just focus on
Right.
the problem instead of the whole 38 acres?
Right. In the process of doing a special exception, what I'm envisioning is an additional topographic survey in I would do an additional topographic survey in this area to go from like right there, because I'm envisioning the path coming up perpendicular. Because once you go perpendicular to the wetland line, the contour lines, then you're minimizing the impact. And if I come up this way, I'm minimizing my impact into the buffer zone here. So I'm envisioning a tighter 1 foot topographic survey in here, and to show a proposed drive to get up to about this area here. But that would be in the special exception process as opposed to the drainage of the entire site.
Do we want to, do we want to hold off on that particular waiver and let the zoning board make a decision before we go forward, or do we want to?
No, I think Keith's right, because the stormwater drainage is the concern of the public.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see how. I don't think we need to do it on the whole, the whole
Right.
thing. But I
Just
don't
what's
see how
gonna be
we can
effective.
get
Right.
away with saying we can waive it for that new piece.
Right. So about in that area. Because the two.
You'll be leveling way out. What is proposed 4K area?
I'm sorry, the 4K area it's a 4,000 square foot area.
Like a
In
yard.
that, I'm sorry?
Like a yard for the.
No, it's meant for the location of, like,
Leach
in
field.
here, you're gonna put a septic
Is that-
system
oh, okay,
somewhere
okay.
in that 4,000 square foot.
Okay.
Because usually septic systems are, let's say 15 by 45,
Okay.
So you could fit a few of them in there, but it just covers a wide area. so that it encapsulates where you want to put it, and twist it and,
Give me a rough idea.
Right.
All right.
it also gives you an idea how far to put the well. Because you don't want it close to septic system.
Yeah, I don't see how we can approve a waiver to not.
So you
study
want to
the
keep it
stormwater.
as it is in the regulation. You want to basically have it as a,
Well, it says it will not contribute to downstream flooding. We're not sure of that.
Right, that's the question that we can't answer. But I don't know if there's a way to,
To like specify that you don't have to do the whole lot, just the part
Right.
that's.
yeah, something like that. Is there a way to do that?
Hello.
Yes, Jay.
Just one suggestion, you could, limit, you could grant the waiver with the exception of the developed portions of proposed lot 27-1.
Okay, so. Would we have to let my motion die and then make a new motion for that? Or can we add a section to an already in place motion if it's on the table?
You could have to make a new one, or you could amend the motion on the floor.
Okay.
you could amend it.
All right. So
But
who wants
I
to amend my motion?
But I want to understand what you said. You're saying with the 3 buildings or potential, whatever.
So you're granting the waiver, yes, with the exception of the portion or the portions of lot 27-1 that are proposed for development, which would be what's shown on the plan. And I think if I go back to the prior plan, there's a box.
Yeah.
But by the developed area is clearly the area that encompasses where the proposed driveway is, the house location, the septic field, the proposed well.
Are you requesting that the zoning board just hones in on that driveway, or?
I'm just saying, if
Just the developed
in
land.
terms of the waiver of the drainage, you could say you're granting it generally, with the exception of this area, so that they don't have to do the whole site, but they do look at the drainage
In that one area.
In that one area, exactly. If that's the wish of the board.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
But again, I'm not a water expert. Do we really need them to look at that, not just that area? Maybe they have to look at more of the area to determine it. We're focusing on the driveway, but maybe there's other factors on the land.
But no, you said the
exception is
developed.
I said the developed area,
So
so
yeah,
not
that would be
just
the
the
whole
driveway.
thing that they're developing. Except,
Right.
so it would leave out
You're saying
this
just look at the raw
chunk of
land at this
3.8
point.
It would
acres,
just
that's
be
3.8,
yeah.
correct.
I'm just saying maybe there's a piece over there that it does affect the driveway over here, that we're just saying, look over at the driveway, but there could be other areas that are impacting the water on that driveway, and we don't know.
Yeah, so it would be, well, where's my good PDF here?
The driveway would be.
Because the whole developed plan wouldn't just be the driveway. It would be all of this area.
You're saying the whole thing,
The
from that
whole-
triangle coming in between the 2 houses, up
Yep.
into that area up there. You're saying, look at that.
Yeah.
But are the other lots contributing to the existing thing? Again, I don't know the law here. You have an existing problem, it's not our job about
Well,
that.
this lot
but
is probably.
I just don't know if the
not
zoning
contributing.
board or can look at just that piece of it and not look at the whole,
Can we just
not the whole 38 acres, but
That,
what's
the,
contributing to that
the
area.
waiver doesn't apply to the zoning board. That's the planning board. So the question, the request is to waive that requirement from the planning board overall.
Zoning will look at the whole, will do it, whatever they think is best for
Right.
this lot.
I imagine this would be information that's pertinent to their decision, but that would be up to them.
Just trying to prevent a disaster for you, the best we can. All right, so I just want to understand, you're saying for this waiver,
Yes.
we could say, because again, to focus on that lot you're proposing on the top, right?
The developed portion of it,
Just that.
yes.
Yeah. It would be.
Does that introduce any liability later? The planning board, if there was something horrible happen at the town
I
or the
don't think
planning
so.
board?
There's the choice of not granting the waiver at all,
Mhm.
or in this case, granting it for really the balance of the property, the most of the property, but not for the area proposed for development.
think that makes sense.
What best protects you? What best protects, is it Mr. Jefferson? I think I've met you before. Not the functions yet. The drainage study and the stormwater drainage, does that protect him from any liability if there was a problem later? Unless I don't know if you're building your own house up there, but. I mean, what's the cost of this versus protecting him is all I'm saying. Is it another veil of protection for you is all I'm asking. It's your call. Well, part of it's your call whether you want to do this or not, or maybe you want to go forward with the drainage study. I don't know.
I'm not.
I'm not
I don't
either.
want. I don't want to claim. I don't want to
It's a
claim
tough
to cite
thing.
the law, but it would be
Right.
my understanding that just in terms of somebody's liability, where one, as I understand it, could have liability is when you take actions like develop something or put in a new driveway or patio, and that causes drainage to go onto a neighboring property that didn't previously. There would be a responsibility on your part where there's existing drainage flowing off a property and you haven't changed it or impacted it, it wouldn't.
Right.
So it would be to the extent that there were activities that occurred, development activities that changed the flow of water that caused.
But we would maybe be granting them to be able to start building on that, right? If this goes through, they're going to start building, right?
They have to get special.
No, they have to go through the zoning first.
Okay, I just have to get.
It's a
this from my
condition of
head.
their approval. It would be a condition of their approval to go through zoning.
Do you still want to have this waiver? You still,
Or, I mean, we can,
because we could do what you're saying and
We could
say, look at that.
grant it
area.
except for 12 line 27
Do you want
-1.
to think about maybe doing that for yourself or?
Well, I think by the regulations, you do a drainage study on the entire lot. That's by the regulations. You want to evaluate. That was sort of what we don't want to do is just do a wetland study of the entire lot. I'm all for doing a study for the purpose of allaying Mr. Dalton's fears about or elevated water table.
Right.
For the purpose of putting in a driveway. There's different solutions to this. But I think that once we have the data, then we'll be in a better situation to know which way we want to go, or which way is good for everyone. But that would be taken care of in the special exception process. So I'd like to actually do a minimal just to show what impact, because that was Mr. Dalton's, the crux of his argument is that if we put in a driveway at grade with a culvert, that it's going to flood his property. I'd just like to take a closer look at the driveway portions as opposed to the entire lot, as would be in the regulations.
When you're speaking of the lot, are you speaking of all 39 acres or just the proposed
Right. If
construction?
you read, because there's wetlands, further on down that aren't impacted at all. Yet if you go to the letter of the regulation,
Yeah, I think we agree. We don't need all the
Right.
way.
right. But that was my
Sorry, the
And
grant
then-
just say they have to do in the 3.84.
right. And then the minimal impact of, the amount of impervious would be, would actually, as far as the driveway is concerned, if you do a cross slope, it would actually be beneficial to my client. So I have no problem with that. Culverts would certainly be beneficial in that area for both parties. So I think we can come to a solution that helps both people, both parties. Now, as far as the existing water on the butter's land, pre-existing conditions, I just, I can't answer those questions when they come up. It's just how, but as far as water on the property in the area of impact wetlands, yeah, I can answer questions about that.
Sure. So, Kim, was your concern that we approve it without the information from the study?
I was concerned maybe there was other pieces on that land that would, if we just looked at that driveway, there might be other things affecting it. But I do think how your land works today and where the problem areas are, right? And you obviously do, and you wanted to say something too, so I don't want to cut you off.
Well, the only thing is, we closed public input.
Oh, I'm
That's
sorry.
why,
Oh,
and
okay.
I'm
So
not
maybe we have to-
ignoring anybody,
Oh, okay.
but because we
Sorry.
closed public input, we
Okay.
unless we reopen it, then they're allowed to speak. And if that's the wish of the board.
Well, let me answer your question first, can you please? My concern was, I agree, a smaller piece to look at would be beneficial. It sounds like, I just think if we just focused on that to protect as many parties as possible. There is an existing problem, we agree to that, as long as it's not made worse, that's all.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess would the logical direction to go to table the waiver for now, but move on the others, and then when we come back in front of the board as a condition of final approval to approve the waiver, because I have to list them on the Mylar anyway.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, that's an option that obviously if you want to table that one and then go on to the others, we can do that. Or you can wait. They would still have to come back, but in either case, we'd have to make a decision either way. So it's up to you. But it's like, it's up to you guys. You would like to do.
We open it up to the public.
Yeah, we'll reopen it again so we can.
Yeah, okay. I will reopen public input. Mr. Dalton, I'm sorry.
It would be easy. Why don't we have them just pipe the water to a brook?
That's in the drainage study. They would find all that.
That would,
Yeah.
I mean,
That.
a very,
I have no problem if they
Right.
just pipe the water to a brook somewhere.
right. Probably, if you
But
think about,
the wetlands you got marked out there, there's more wetlands than there is there. That whole section
Right.
is pretty much wet. When you do a water survey, you're gonna find out that
Right.
the marks you got there's more wetlands than you have marked out there.
You pulled up
Well,
the
these
flags.
are official wetlands.
all right, guys,
Pull up
guys.
the flag.
No, but the thing is, when we talk about jurisdictional wetlands,
You go near there. I pulled out the wet flags on my land.
Why don't you let him finish? Okay.
all right, when we talk about jurisdictional wetlands, I'm not the one that puts the flags out. It's what's called a New Hampshire 3-tier system. It's based upon botany, like only certain plants will grow in certain areas. It's based on hydrology. Like if you see water running, that, it's definitely wet, right? It's based on, a lot of things that are outside my pay grade. So that's why we hire someone to come in, and that's all they do is that they take soil samples, and then they delineate where points, different points that exhibit wetland traits, where they begin, and we connect the dots. And that's what those blue flags are that you see out there. It's where a guy comes by, he's got a, for the lack of a better term, an auger. He takes a look at the plants and soils and hydrology, and then he puts wetland flags around. So I didn't put those on there. But you did bring up a great point before that water tends to seek its own level. So if I was to do a study and I was to alleviate any sort of subsurface hydrology, like water travels underground, what I would do is I would put either a culvert or what we would call a wet well right here, which is more or less just it's a catch basin. You will only see the grate, and they sink it down. And then the culvert comes over here. So any water, and even water that's underground that might percolate would be drained into the pre-existing wetland system. I mean, that's what we had talked about earlier, and I was just, so what it is it's a big concrete structure. You only get to see the cover. It's like a drainage. And it's got holes perforated in it. It almost looks like a giant coffee filter. And the water goes in there, and then it just goes out. And so that takes care of the subsurface hydrology. That's the subsurface hydraulic gradient, as they call it. So that would be the common sense solution to the problem, to alleviate any backup in this area, which you were concerned.
Where are you going to run that to?
It would come across to, common sense would be, you want to go to, the water wants to go to where it wants to go. So it wants to go to someplace wet. So, you would come right across here. I would imagine. That would be common sense.
It used to be a fire, right where you go up Stagecoach Road. Used to be a big fire hole in there where the old days in the 50s, we used to throw a line in there and fight the fires.
Like
that's where that water all used to go.
Okay.
Well, the library has filled it in a little here, a little there.
Stage crossing.
Yeah. Over the years. I'm talking about in the 50s.
It's not running that way anymore. It's running back.
They built it up so it's running towards us now. And we don't mind what's there, but we don't want no more.
Right, but
and I'm here to tell you, the planning board, when they put in the project on the other end of this here, I didn't get there in time to tell them not to run the water. By the time I told them, it was too late. So we're here early to tell you, straighten the water problem out.
But what I'm saying is there's the solutions that benefit,
well, that's what I said. Pipe into a brook.
Right.
Put a pipe in. I mean, I don't care if you went right across my land in the front and put a pipe right into that brook. We go on there. I mean, if we can get John to agree, I said, well,
I think water wants to go where it wants to go, and
it does.
But
we don't want no more. We've got enough now.
Well, Mr. Dalton, it's going. When I talked about the path of the pipe, it's going in the exact opposite direction of your property.
But the pipe isn't there.
All right. Understand.
I got you there.
Oh, you do.
And you're filling in the wetlands.
You're filling in wetlands, and it's going to come on us.
Well, what we talk about when we talk about the mitigation, and we bring this up in the either the conservation or the special exception, is the impact right here would only be extremely minimal, and
Mr. Jefferson rented to people that had 4-wheel drive trucks. And they used to have a mud bog right out through there back years ago. I mean, they used to have a mud bog. The whole thing is wet. I'm telling you. There's been many nights I've seen trucks out there stuck, and they pulled them out the next morning.
I pulled a few out of there.
Right.
I mean, it's wet.
Right. So, I'm just bringing us up to 2018. So I'd like to, that would be one, what I talked about with the in-drain would be one solution. And so you seem, receptive to that as long as the pipe goes in the opposite direction, right?
Yeah. I mean, as long as the water ain't on us,
right. And being subsurface, it tends to accept water from all directions, which would.
It goes the easiest way.
Right. If picture like this table is water and you had a can right here, the water from all directions would go into it. And so that would also include water that
we understand that,
would
but it isn't
that would be pre-existing. So it would be doing more.
It needs to be high enough so it runs that way.
Or low enough.
Either that or low enough.
You mean low enough?
Well, it will come back the wrong way. If they put it in, the water will be going back into it instead of out.
So I think that we're on the right path.
You look just the other side of Stagecoach Road. They dug that trench that goes all the way down to the river, back of the library. Well, used to run all the way down through there in the 50s. Over the period of time, it's filled in and this and that. Maybe if you clean that out. I'm not an engineer.
Jay, you had something you want to say?
Just to say, it sounds like there could be a solution, to the drainage issue. I think what's necessary as a next step is to in fact have that drainage study and that proposed solution provided to the board so that could be incorporated into the plan as part of approval.
Right, during the special exception process, or
well, I mean, the special exception is focused on the impact to the buffer, not necessarily on the overall drainage to the site. So
to address that, I would be, you know what I mean? I think we're sort of like in circular logic, but to address that, I think that I would need to show structures, because to do a drainage plan and the special exception plan, like separate without each other, it doesn't make sense.
It does. I agree it doesn't, but I think that's the reason why there are drainage requirements in the planning board regulations is to address the impact of proposed development on drainage. So yeah, I think there you could very well be looking at putting in some structures, maybe yes, maybe no, but that should be shown and documented. And then absolutely, those are going to be additional structures proposed within the buffer, which the zoning board would have to consider.
Right. And another reason I think that the waiver should be approved is because during the construction of the driveway, we'd be required to show the elevations of the driveway. So that's another time we would be required to show cross sections. So I just wanted to address also if you cross slope a proposed drive, because you were talking about elevating and backing up, but if you cross slope it, then the water runs across and drains that way.
Usually when they put it in a driveway, it's a little higher than the land.
Well, when you put it in a driveway, usually you put in, you excavate, and then you put in a course, and then a course of loose, and then you roll it, and then you bind it. So it depends. You can make it flush, but you just have to excavate out and then put in coarse material so it'll bear the weight. And roll it. It's usually.
I wish you'd come down back and look at back of me. They've got more drainage ditches. They dug big ditches to catch the water, to catch the soot.
Right, you were down by Autumn, right?
Huh?
That is it.
Autumn?
Autumn, yeah.
Autumn Lane? Is that it? That's a big subdivision, not.
What a mess.
It's going back to the bank.
Oh.
So I guess the question is, seems to me, I mean, looking at everything, it seems as if there would be a need for some sort of a study.
This is hearsay, so you need a study.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, yes. I mean, it's technically, yeah, I think we need some sort of data, sufficient data to say this is going to either impact or, because I don't see, I mean, we can go back and forth, but I don't know. Jay, what do you think?
I hear what they're saying about circular logic. I think ideally, again, I don't think you need to do a study of all 39 acres. I think, but I think a more focused study on the developed portions of the site of that lot, I think does make sense. And just given the amount of issues, not to, obviously it's the pleasure of the board, but you may want to consider then continuing the hearing until after the point where the zoning board has a chance.
Make a decision.
And then there isn't this kind of conflict. Right. We will have the study and we'll have a decision from the zoning board. The Conservation Commission will have weighed in and that issue will go away. I should say will be addressed.
I would agree. I think it is. I think that it should be. I think that a little more time needs to be looked into this. I think a little bit more study needs to be looked into this. I'm a little eerie about going into conditional approval without knowing a little bit more. But as I said, I'm not the planning board. I'm just one person on the planning board. So it's up to you guys what you want to do. Now, if there's no other, is there any other public input? Because I'm going to close public input again. Okay, so I'm closing public input at this time. So we're going to go back to the board. We did have a motion on the table.
Yes.
And a second. Do we need to withdraw that, amend it?
I would like to amend it.
You would like to amend it. Okay, what would you like to amend?
So I would say that
now this was as applicable to the waiver.
yeah, so specifically as applicable to the waiver for what is it? Sections 30K and M and 150Q drainage plan, erosion control plan, and stormwater drainage plan. As for that waiver, it would apply to only, what is it? The map 12 lot 27-2, which would be the area outside of the development or the proposed developed area.
Okay.
Don't you want to grant the waiver on the whole thing except for plot -1?
Can I do that? Wait.
Because the developed part is actually being called map
Yeah, so
12 lot 27-1. So you want to grant acceptance of the waiver
I
for
want to-
everything except for that piece.
I want to grant exceptions of the waiver for, oh yeah. Sorry. I'm looking at it and I'm reading it as different. 27-2. Yeah, so plot 2, right? That's what I said.
No.
There's 3 lots.
There's 3 lots.
Oh, there's
So
3.
if you just exclude, grant it for everything
Yeah, I
except
said-
for
well, I-
27-1, the proposed construction site, you'll
So I wanted it to
Encompass
apply.
everything.
So I wanted it to be accepted for 27-2, which would be the big area that's not being developed, and then 1 and 3, I guess, would have to get to the
No.
right.
3's not being developed, so.
No, 3's not being developed either.
It's got an existing house.
So
Yeah, but it's still right next to it. Oh yeah, true. Okay. So I'm amending my motion to be accepted. So exception for all except for plot 1, right?
yeah, map 12 lot 27-1.
Map 12 lot 27-1, yeah.
Okay. I have a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have discussion?
I just want to be clear for myself. Sorry, guys. What I think, because I heard pieces, I just want to make sure. All the 3 waivers, we're going to pass 2 of them, and then the drainage one is the one you just read. Is
Yes.
that correct? Okay, I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Are you
Oh,
voting
wait,
on the-
we have to-
you're voting on the amendment first?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. So you're going to have to vote.
We have to vote on the amendment. So I've amended it.
Yeah.
And then the,
And then, so yeah. Does somebody have to second my amendment?
Yes.
They
Yes.
did.
So I need a second for
okay,
the
yeah.
amendment to the motion.
What to say?
Second.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a second for the amendment to the motion. Discussion. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposed. Abstained? Motion passes
For the
5-1.
amendment, yeah.
For the amended motion, motion passes 5-1-0. Okay,
Did somebody say nay?
Did somebody say it?
I did.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
you have to go back to the main motion.
So I got to go back to the main motion.
It's the other 2 waivers plus this.
Okay, so
Just
so the other two, so the original motion was the other 2 waivers and the plus the amended
Yeah.
one. So I'm going to need a vote
On
on
the whole thing,
on the whole thing.
whole enchilada.
just accepting the waivers.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
So, do I have do I have a motion?
There was a motion.
There was a motion.
There was a motion,
Yep,
so
it's been
do
amended.
we have a second?
No,
We
there
already-
was the main motion.
Yep.
was
We're
made and
unwinding now,
seconded,
so
and you
we-
voted on the amendment. So now you have to vote on the main motion.
Yeah. So now we're just voting because I've already made the motion.
Right.
We've already got a second.
Right.
Then we
Right.
amended it. Then we got
Right.
a second on the amendment. Then we voted on the amendment. Now we're coming back to vote on
Right.
the
Main one.
main
On
one.
the main one.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so on the main motion, all those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 6-0-0.
Yes.
Okay. I'm confused, but
But John's not.
I think I'm getting it.
It-
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that takes care of that piece. So that takes care of the waiver piece.
Yes.
So do everyone understand what's happening now? So we essentially allowed for the two waivers that do not affect the issue of the drainage. The other one has basically been taken off the table.
No, it was
It was
amended.
accepted
It was
for
amended.
everywhere except for the new construction.
Yeah.
Accepted for a lot, yes, I'm sorry, a lot, what is it? 27-1? Yeah, okay,
So we still have to do
okay.
drainage stuff on that one lot.
So that one is gonna have to, there's gonna have to be a little bit more work to be done on that one, so, okay. And obviously you have to go before the zoning board, so that, that'll be another issue. So do we want to, I guess, how do we want to work this now? I mean, do we want to continue this hearing or do we want to move forward with conditional approval? Or are we going to wait to hear what the zoning board has to say and then vote then at a date and time certain? How do you want to do this?
I say we vote now with conditions for the zoning board approval, right? Because we already have them doing the study.
Right. If the zoning board accepts it, is there any reason why we wouldn't?
That's how I look at it also.
Yeah. I mean,
I
Jay?
don't see any reason why. I'm sorry.
Since you didn't approve the full waiver,
Yeah.
you're going to have to get that drainage report before
Oh, yeah.
final approval.
That was kind of my concern. Is
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we all still look at that? And
so then we're going to have to probably
Continue.
table it to a date and time certain.
Okay. When's our next available meeting?
Well, that's a question. I mean, what would happen is the 65-day clock is going to tick. We don't have a meeting next July 3rd.
Three things on the 17th.
We're packed on the 17th. Yeah.
If you put it to August, it also gives them a chance to apply to the zoning board.
Yeah.
And get the study done.
So August 7th would probably be the closest we can get you in here. Would that work for you?
So is there a meeting on July 3rd?
No.
No, because
July
it's
20th?
it's the 17th, I believe. No, I'm sorry,
17th, but that one's packed. We've already got.
because we already have another. We have a couple things going on that night. It's going to be hard to.
Yeah.
So it's the first and third Tuesday.
Right.
Yep. So the next available meeting would be the 7th.
In August. Mhm.
August, yeah.
Now that would give you time, because I don't know if you have to go before the zoning board. I don't know when they're going to be meeting, and it'd give you an opportunity to do that, and also to, make any calculations or anything that has to be done during that time period. So it gives you time to do that. So.
The ZBA meets on the second Wednesday of every month.
So the 11th of next month.
Just the second Wednesday.
Second Wednesday,
Once a month.
once a month, at 7 o'clock.
July 11th. Get there. On that one.
Yeah. So you would bus it basically, I mean, like I said, August 7th would be the, to come back. Now, if you did that, I would just ask that you get any plans or anything into our planner Jay, get them to NRPC by probably the week before. Is that okay? Yeah. So like the Tuesday,
Just to give enough time.
just so that they have enough time to review the plans and get that information so that, you know. So, I mean, if that's okay with you, I mean, we can entertain a motion to move this to a date and time certain for August 7th meeting. Understand too, if we do that, just for the abutters in the room, we don't re-notify abutters of the hearings after the first one. So just so you know, if you want to come back on the 7th, you're going to have to come back. We're not going to re-notice that. So just, but you know.
I think the zoning board meeting is going to be the one that's more pertinent to you guys' concerns.
Right.
So that's going to be the one to go to.
Well, is the zoning board gonna notify us?
Yes.
Yes.
They would have to. They're required to.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Are they gonna have the same problem they had with the notification?
Probably, because then also just go to 6.
Oh yeah, it'll just go to the one that's on the. All right.
Same.
All right. I'll. If you guys are all right with it, I'm gonna make a motion to continue this meeting to August 7th, 2018.
Okay. 7 p.m. here in Town Hall.
Yes.
Do you
I have
already
a
have
mo-
the agenda set for that?
I'm sorry?
You already have the agenda set?
I don't think we,
Not for the 7th.
not for the 7th, but
17th.
I don't think it'll be an issue. I don't think. I don't.
There's nothing on the 7th yet.
No, so I think you're good.
Okay. You guys are priority one on 7th.
Okay, I have a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I just want to make it clear to the applicant that the planning board is here to protect the public and the public safety and the public interest. And the public has come to us with a concern of a water problem. And we have an applicant that has come to us asking for a waiver to kind of with this whole situation with the water. There's a waiver with water and there's a concern with water. So, and it's, I guess I can apologize in one way to be pushing this off, but we really do feel as if we do need this water study to help protect the abutters and the public. And that's why we are here. That's all.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anything else? on the board? All right, if hearing none, we had a second, correct? So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 6-0-0. Okay, so this will be continued to August 7th, 7 p.m. here in Town Hall. Okay? Good luck.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you for coming.
We gotta get together and talk to Litchfield DPW to get that. What do you say we put in a petition for that?
Yeah, there used to be a fire hole in there.
Okay. Good night, gentlemen. Thank you. All right, on that note, committee reports. Any reports from committees? Let's see. I think that, yeah, go-
Like the other boards and stuff, those committees?
anything?
Yes. Potential one.
All right.
I requested my name to go before the Board of Selectmen for the Heritage Commission on the 25th.
Mhm.
I don't know if they'll accept me or not. I'm going to make it clear that I'm a planning board member, but I was also a historical society member a week before then. The only reason I would like to do it, a historical society members are welcoming the committee, and one or two want to sit on the committee if they go in front of you as well. I would like to do it from a planning board perspective to make sure when it's set up, it was for advisory only, the Heritage Commission. Wasn't supposed to be doing anything else.
Mhm.
And the zoning ordinance we set up for the demolition, just to bring the board up to speed here. We've had a lot of turnover on this side as well, just to make sure that that's, taught correctly of what happened before we go forward. So that's, I'm going to go before the committee on that. Again, it's up to them whether they want me there or not. So, I would also say, I don't know how they're going to react. They may think it's a conflict of interest. I don't know. So maybe I want to ask the board here. The Heritage Commission usually would like a planning board member on it.
Mhm.
But if they don't want me because they might think there's a problem being in all three, I don't know if anybody else on the board here would want to potentially step up if they said no to me. So I'm just putting that out there. Think about. I don't know if anybody wants to say they would do it now or that I could, if they say no to me, I can say that you're thinking of who will maybe come forward or
Let's see what they say.
see what they say.
Yeah.
See what they say? Okay. Just want to be prepared in case you say.
I haven't seen the agenda thus far.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so they say no to me. Anybody else want to do it? Or? Okay.
Great. Conservation, I believe, meets the 27th. Okay, and the Lower Merrimack River Advisory Committee, in which I sit, is on the 28th of June, 7 p.m. in the Nashua Public Library. There'll be a hearing. Okay. Approval of the June 5th, 2018 minutes. Joan, do we have minutes? And has anybody taken a look at the minutes and have any questions? Okay, if there's no issue with the minutes, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes of June 5th, 2018 as written.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as written for June 5th, 2018.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, do I have discussion? All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, abstained. Motion passes 6-0-0. Okay. Any other business before the board this evening? Jay, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay. Joan, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I might.
Okay. Yes. No.
Because I know.
Sure.
We had the round table at an RPC. I don't know if anybody wants me to go over the highlights of it, or do you want me to type up what happened and post it for our next meeting?
Well, how, I mean,
I'd like to hear
There was like 9 major points that at least I saw. You were there. Huh? Do you want me to type them up? Is it easier? Okay, why don't I type them up? Because they were, I think, almost applied tonight.
Okay.
Well, which one? Can you talk
Yeah.
about that
It
one?
was one on subdividing with needing retaining walls. Well, not retaining walls, but engineering blankets under the ground. Sometimes you put in them under the ground and you split the lot, and then a plow or something goes through it and breaks the netting or something like that. It didn't apply to this case, so I didn't bring it up. But things like that were coming up. Solar panels and stuff like that.
Oh, excellent.
All right. So anyway, I'll type them up and send them to you. I thought they were interesting.
Well, we appreciate you doing that and certainly attending. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. If there's nothing else from the board this evening, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 6-0-0. Thank you for joining us this evening, and have a good evening, and we won't see you till after the 4th of July. We don't have a meeting June 3rd, so happy 4th. Good night. I said June.
Said June.
I
I didn't even say
meant
aye on the
July.
last one.